What's up, guys? Matt Moda here to talk to you about the Eagles versus Chiefs Week 2 game. I'm going to have 3 player prop picks for you guys to lock in for this game. So earlier this week, I did a pretty big betting preview, just kind of going through injury news, Week 1 results, what to look forward to in this game and everything like that. Really, the only change from that is it looks like Xavier Worthy might actually play. He has been practicing. It's still undecided if he actually is going to play. I thought that was a near certainty he was not. Looks like he might. Doesn't really change how I feel overall about this game. Didn't really impact the player prop that I liked as well, but that is something to just keep in mind if you watched that video and now you're watching this one. But yeah, so we're going to have 3 player props for you guys to lock in. Just remember, go to BetMGM, use the promo code CROSSING to sign up. To do a recap from the last game, the Eagles-Cowboys went 1-1, completely broke even. Hurts, anytime touchdown, free square. That one hit pretty easily. The Dak Prescott 2+ passing touchdowns did not come through. Looked like we had a chance, but their 2 scoring drives each went down to the 1-yard line. Pass interference helped a couple of those, but break even day. Let's hope we can have a better one this time with 3 props to lock in. The first one we are going with is Jahan Dotson. We are taking him over 11.5 receiving yards. Now, it's an incredibly low number. I totally understand that if you look off of based off of last year, does not look like this is that great of a play. It's no doubt about it. His first year with the Eagles was definitely a disappointment. He only went over this game in 4 of 16 games last year. Now, one of those games he went over didn't really even count because it was week 18 and the Eagles rested all their starters. So they gave him a ton of work in that one. And even, I'm just making this worse and worse for Dotson last year, there were a couple games that one of A.J. Brown and or Devontae Smith were out, and still, Jahan Dotson just could not get anything going. All that being said, all of last year's disappointment in mind, the best game that he had taking out that Week 18 game was literally in the Super Bowl. They played possum with Jahan Dotson for the first 18 games of the year for the Eagles, whatever it was, 20 games, and brought him out in the Super Bowl. He had 42 receiving yards in that game. He had 2 receptions. He had 3 targets. He had a huge play on third down when the Eagles had the ball. The game was tied. It was 0-0, still well in the balance of what was going to happen in that game. And they ended up throwing a deep shot to Jahan Dotson. He got tackled at the 1. And then he had a first down on another reception as well. Now, those 42 receiving yards might not seem like a lot, obviously, but keep in mind the prop for this one is 11.5. So 42, literally 4 times the prop that we need for this one to hit. And after that Super Bowl, it looks as though Jahan Dotson was able to carry that momentum from the Super Bowl and kind of keep that going over the summer. You know, you look at and you read the training camp reports out of Philadelphia, which as a fan I do. It seemed as though, based on the comments, that he developed a real rapport with Jalen Hurts. Now, it helped that both Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown missed a decent amount of time over the summer. So the Eagles had to have somebody on the field. They had to have these plays go to somebody. But it seemed like, based on that, Dotson was going to be more involved in the Eagles' offense, just based on how things went in the training camp, in the preseason and stuff. And that kind of bear itself out in Week 1. He led the Eagles in receiving yards with 59. Of those 59, a big chunk of that was a huge 50-plus yard catch on a huge third down early in the game. The Eagles were down. It was third down. Their defense had not been able to stop the Cowboys' offense at all. They dialed up a deep shot to Jahan Dotson, and it worked to perfection. He had 3 targets in that game, and he caught all 3, again, for the 59 yards. So yes, it's only a 1-game sample size, so obviously you don't want to make too much out of that. That's also the only data that we have to go off of. So if you take into account Week 1, and then you think about the fact that Dotson was primed to have a bigger role on the 2025 Eagles than he had on the 2024 Eagles, the guess is that he is able to continue that in this game. We're not asking for a ton of work in this one just for him to get to 12 or more receiving yards. That's play number 1. Next up, the second play that we are locking in here is Juju Smith-Schuster, and we're taking him over 30.5 receiving yards. Minus 110 odds is the best offered price here. Now, again, I mentioned that initially I thought Xavier Worthy was going to be out for this game. It doesn't look like that's the case. I still like this play backing Juju Smith-Schuster. You know, my guess is that a lot of people are either going to just go right back to Xavier Worthy after getting hurt in the first play of Week 1, or they're going to go to Hollywood Brown, who had 16 targets in Week 1, had 10 receptions. I like to look a lot better for Juju Smith-Schuster. Now, part of that logic is the fact that the prop for Juju, this receiving yardage prop, is literally half the prop that Hollywood Browns is. Like Juju's is 30.5, Hollywood Browns is like 62.5. So we only need him to hit half of what Brown does in order to hit this prop. That definitely is part of it. And even with Worthy returning, I like to look for Juju on Sunday. Juju, he caught all 5 of his targets from week 1. He had 5 for 55. And I really think this is all about the matchup. Juju Smith-Schuster, at this point in his career, excels in zone coverage. Now, obviously, it's only a 1-week sample size, but last week versus zone coverage, Juju had the highest separation score of anybody on the Chiefs and the second highest win rate. He also had the second most yards per route run and the second most targets per route run as well. You're looking at all pass catchers on the Chiefs. Now, yes, Hollywood Brown was above him in the targets and the yards per route run, but he wasn't dramatically above him. They're pretty comparable in terms of what their numbers were, which makes me think that there's a little bit of value on Juju Smith-Schuster. Now, there's a couple reasons why these zone coverage numbers are important. Number one, the matchup against the Eagles, a heavy zone team. Last year, in week 1, the Eagles played zone coverage 80% of the time against the Cowboys. They played zone coverage. You look at the Super Bowl last year against the Chiefs. I mean, they're literally the same exact defensive coaching staff. Yes, the Eagles personnel is different. Their coaching staff is the same. Eagles played zone coverage 90% of the time in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs. That matters. And Xavier Worthy, as good as he was towards the end of last year, they use him on a lot of man coverage beating routes. It's a lot of crossing routes, wide receiver screens. They use Worthy on stuff that you want to beat man coverage. That's not what they're really going to see against the Eagles. So I think that Smith-Schuster is going to be able to find the soft spots in the zone. That's what he does best at this point in his career. And I don't really foresee the Chiefs having a great rushing attack. Now that Jalen Carter presumably is able to play in this game, I'm expecting the Eagles' run defense to be a lot better than it was last week against the Cowboys. And I think that the Chiefs are going to need to be passing a lot, which we all know they like to do under Andy Reid anyway. So I think that there's a lot of logic for liking Juju Smith-Schuster in this one. We're just asking him to get 30.5 yards to go over that number. I think he can get there. That's play number 2. And then our third and final official pick for this video, A.J. Brown over 65.5 receiving yards, minus 113 odds is the price on this one. This is a classic I like to call fade of recent results. If you want to sound a little bit smarter, you can call it positive regression. You can also, you hear this a lot on social media, A.J. Brown is going to get the squeaky wheel treatment in this game. You look at week 1, A.J. Brown didn't receive a single target until the final drive of the game. Literally as the Eagles were looking to run out the clock, they threw it to A.J. Brown. He caught that target for 8 yards. That was all of his production in week 1. After that, a lot of speculation. Was A.J. Brown fully healthy? He missed a ton of time with a hamstring injury, as I mentioned, in training camp. A lot of chatter about what was going on with Brown, his role, the Eagles passing game, all that stuff. And to give him credit a little bit, he did come out of the game, say he was fully healthy. The Cowboys, they quote-unquote zoned him up. They played a lot of zone coverage, and they took him out of the game. He also said he wasn't happy with his workload. He was happy that they won, and the only thing he can do is really take it game by game. Now, the Eagles, they're a very good organization, so this is said with love. They're hyper aware of the talk and the chatter around the team. They know what people are saying about them, and they are very, very kind of protective of the narrative around the Eagles. So all this chatter about A.J. Brown not being involved, the Eagles passing game, the guess here is that A.J. Brown is going to be involved early and often in this one. If you can look at a sportsbook like BetMGM, look for first quarter props, first reception props, first drive props, stuff like that. Look for A.J. Brown in those markets. I think he's going to get involved early, but we'll just stick with the main line here. And it's not like A.J. Brown is just some Johnny tryhard. He's very, very good. We have a large sample size of him performing well in an Eagles uniform. You even include the game last week in which he missed. You look at A.J. Brown the last 2 years, so we're even taking out the 2022 season where A.J. Brown and the Eagles were phenomenal. You take out that year, you look at the last 2 seasons plus week 1 of this year. A.J. has recorded 66 or more receiving yards in 21 of 35 games. That's a 60% hit rate. That's over the last 2 years. And then you look at last year specifically, and that was a down year for the Eagles passing game, a down year for A.J. Brown. He still went over in 10 of 17 games. It's a 30-game sample size from this year, last year, and the year before, averaging 77 receiving yards per game. So we know how good A.J. Brown is. We know how good he can be in this offense. Now, I will admit, If you look at the Chiefs based off the last couple years, you take out week 1 of this year, you look at the last couple years, historically a tough matchup, right? The Chiefs don't give up a lot to wide receivers. They give up a lot to the tight end and the slot receiver. Not so much A.J. Brown. But we did see the Chiefs get torched by the Chargers in week 1. Literally all 3 of the Chargers wide receivers that were involved in any capacity, Ladd McConkey, Quentin Johnson, and Keenan Allen, 3 for 3. Literally, they all 3 went over their receiving yardage prop on that was the Friday game in Brazil between the Chargers and the Chiefs. So this game on Sunday, I'm projecting A.J. Brown to go off. And that's all we got. So 3 total picks for you guys to lock in. Jahan Dotson over 11.5 receiving yards. Juju Smith-Schuster over 30.5 receiving yards. And A.J. Brown over 65.5 receiving yards. Liked the receiving yards market in this one, which is funny when you think about the Eagles and how they love to run the ball, but that's just kind of how the board fell to me. Appreciate everybody for watching. Make sure to like the video, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Make sure to go to BetMGM, use the promo code CROSSING to sign up. Make sure to bet responsibly and have a good one. Must be 21 or older in participating states. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. See terms and conditions in the description of the video.